Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. This show is brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family or strain, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
Can I improve my strain through crossbreeding?
Only if you want to change them forever.
But I like to experiment.
You're gonna ruin your strain, you fool.
Okay, fine. But...
There's no buts about it. If you want to improve your strain, you need to stop adding outside blood.
Okay, fine. Nancy, I see you.
You guys are nuts.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my co-host, Nancy, my wife. We're giving Frank another day off. Should be back next week. So what's up?
Not a whole hell of a lot. Hey, you know that SpaceX is going to be flying over our house again tonight. Woo woo. But we'll miss it.
I was gonna,
We'll be in here podcasting. We're going to miss it.
say you're on the clock.
I know. Sorry. No breaks for me. Not like I hadn't seen it before, but you know, it's really cool when it goes over the house. And I think you put in the Facebook members only group the video that I did from last week. It was cool.
Yeah, I think I put it on all my Facebook pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Not much. Just getting ready for another show.
Not like I haven't talked to you in like hours or anything.
No, we're just married. We don't talk.
So, Kenny, I noticed you're wearing a really nice shirt that says something really interesting. And what do you know? I'm wearing one too. So we want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the shirts are, it's an idea I got from a show that we really like watching, which is The Chosen. And it's something Jesus says to one of his disciples, I think. And it just rung with me because we are so different from everybody else when it comes, especially when it comes to teaching breeding to breeders, you know, the proper ways, or what we feel is a proper way of breeding. And that's kind of my motto, is that, you know, get used to different, because we are different from everybody else. And it's kind of what we're going to be teaching a little bit for maybe the next 4 weeks. We're working on, we're basically going to be talking about the ugly truth about outcrossing and foundation lines. And so it seemed like it started out as an outline that we were going to maybe do for one show. I kept expanding it and working on it. And it looks like it's going to be something that we're going to work on, or we're going to talk about for the next 3 or 4 weeks, because there's just so much material, because there's so many misconceptions about it. But this is one of those terms that we use a lot. And I have a matter of fact, I have a banner. Let me pull it up. That I put on my Facebook pages and pretty much everywhere. You know, what we teach about breeding is different from everybody else. And it's the way I feel about it. And my advice is to get used to different, because we are going to be talking about outcrossing for a while, because it's just, it has become the main method for most people. If it's not outcrossing, it's crossbreeding. And that term can be used loosely depending on who you talk to, you know, and it seems to be the fix all for everybody, or for many people. And we teach a whole different method. We actually teach how to create strains, how to improve strains, how to maintain strains. And crossbreeding does not apply to any of that. You know what I mean? There's just no way to do that if you're going to be outcrossing. Another one of our phrases that we use quite a bit is the straight stick versus the crooked stick, which is the best way to show that a stick is crooked is not to argue about it or spend time denouncing it, but to lay the straight stick alongside of it. And that's another one that just rings with me. Matter of fact, I created a banner that we use on our pre-show slides in the beginning that goes like this, because we have this big old pile of sticks that were a bunch of crooked sticks that we're trying to replace with our straight sticks. So we're lighting them up on fire. You know what I mean? So that's another term we use a lot. And then another one I use is science is an extension of common sense, because everybody wants to go against science or act like it doesn't matter. It's not an issue. It doesn't work for us all the times. And I don't know how you can breed without knowing science or understanding science. And we apply science in a very big way on the Breeders Academy and the Founders Program, and a lot of what we teach here on our shows. So I think it does apply. I think it's a big deal, and I think it should be taken seriously. So between the straight stick versus the crooked stick, the science is an extension of common sense, and the get used to different. When I saw these, I think it was on, it might have been on Amazon.com. I said, Nancy, what do you think? She goes, get them. You know,
I liked them. I thought it was pretty cool. But you know, we are a bit controversial in what we teach. I'm sure it's a little bit hard for some people to get used to the way we teach. But I'd like to say, you said science is an extension to common sense, and I'd like to say that science is an explanation to theory or action. So
Science is a theory to, well, yeah. I mean,
it's an explanation of a theory, you know,
yeah.
because you explain it through
Oh,
science.
yeah. I mean, but everybody wants to fight against it. You know, they think common sense and science are two different things. So I think common sense is just an extension of science, and science is an extension of common sense. So they want to separate them. And I think they're both important. I don't think you can have common sense without knowing some of the science. How do you put birds together for breeding if you don't understand the science? How do you know which birds you're gonna be able to put together and get certain results without the science? So without science, you're speculating and you're guessing all the time. So I just find it funny when people want to want to try to put it down or make a big, act like it's not a big deal, and whoever teaches it is out of touch. I just hear it so much.
Well, I think that's why we are considered so controversial.
Well, we shouldn't be controversial.
But we shouldn't. You're right. We shouldn't. But, and then too,
that's
a lot
the
of
funny
people.
Thing. Wait a minute. That's the funny thing, because I was going to say that before, is that we are controversial, but we shouldn't be. You know, what we teach should be used by everybody. Everybody should be doing what we do, and for it to be controversial just is insane, if you ask me. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Do you want to mention any more?
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Okay,
moving on. Go ahead.
Okay,
I don't remember. You interrupted me, so I don't remember.
I I interrupted you because 3 times I was trying to say that and you kept interrupting me.
Oh,
so I interrupted you interrupting me. So, anyways,
okay, fine. Go ahead.
A lot of well, not a lot, but some of my members noticed that yesterday the website was down through the night because we had some issues. It wasn't a big deal. I knew exactly what it was when somebody showed me what they had on the screen. I tried to call the server and they just weren't open. And it was late at night. So I got up in the morning and called them up, told them what happened. They fixed it right away. So everything's good. You can get on the website. No problem. Just wanted to let you guys know that it wasn't a big deal. But I do appreciate my members letting me know. Whenever you guys see something like that, get in touch with me right away. That way I can act on it right away. Because if something like that were to happen, let's say on a Friday night, like tonight, or weekend, sometimes I'd have to wait through the weekend to get it taken care of. I'd have to wait till Monday. So it really helps me when you guys let me know what's going on.
Yeah, that was good. So what are we going to be talking about today? What are we covering?
Well, we are going to be covering a topic that's it's associated with outcrossing. This is going to be a 4-part series. I'm labeling it The Ugly Truth About Outcrossing Foundation Lines. I find it funny that everybody thinks they can outcross, but they still have a foundation line, and we're gonna talk about that. This is going to be like a 4-part series. The first one's going to be every method has a particular function and purpose. So we're going to talk about the various methods that we use for like breeding programs. There's going to be a few we're going to leave out that has to do with the Founders Program, which nobody else uses but us. But we will be talking about the various methods, and we're going to lead into outcrossing after that. And then Frank should be back next week, and we'll dive deep hard into the outcrossing topic. So part 2 will be, why do breeders think outcrossing is a good thing? So we're going to show some of the positive sides, some of the reasons you would do outcrossing, why it can be a good thing and it could be useful. But and then the one after that, we're going to do what are the dangers of outcrossing for a breeder. So we're going to talk about the negative sides. And so we're going to show that I'm good about that. Anytime I do a program, a course, or an article, I'm always showing the pros and cons. I always want to show the whole picture. So I talk about what it is. I show the pros and cons, and then I give you advice on how to use it properly. And then from there, I let you decide what you want to do. And that's kind of how a lot of my members would probably understand that a lot of my programs are set up that way, so that you can. I'm teaching you. I'm educating you. I'm hoping I'm enlightening you, but still you're able to make some decisions on your own about what's the best approach for you. Okay. And a lot of our programs and courses are highly associated or heavily associated with the Founders Program, which is our breeding method, which is on the website. So, and then the fourth one would be mitigating the risk of outcrossing. How to lessen the effects or the negative effects of outcrossing. So that'll be part 4.
All right. And then what are we going to do in the back with the members today?
Well, let me say one more thing is because I was thinking the outcrossing was going to be a one-time episode, but it turned out to be the topics I was coming up with, because look at the different angles I'm attacking it with. And I just thought it'd be better if we separate them. Okay. Because I thought I was going to do outcrossing and next week do in and inbreeding, because I think in and inbreeding is misunderstood too. A lot of people associate line breeding with inbreeding and in and inbreeding with line breeding, and sometimes they associate backcrossing with line breeding and line breeding with backcrossing. And in some ways they get the terminology wrong, but in other ways they're just misunderstanding the method altogether. And it's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But and then for the members, we're going to do, what were we going to do?
A Q&A.
Yeah, no, I know that for this time, but we were going to talk about, and I want Frank with this to help us with this too, because I think this is a good time where it should be a real discussion. And this is what I'm going to do for a while in the back end, is we're going to talk about the different elements of the Founders Program. So we're going to be tackling the Founders Program in multiple ways to give you a much broader, better understanding of the program. So, but today will be, because Frank's not here today, and I really want him to be part of that discussion. So today we're going to do a members Q&A, members live Q&A. So for my members, we'll meet you in the back end and get your questions together. You can talk about the website. We can talk about the Breeders' Academy. We can talk about breeding. We can talk about the Founders Program. Anything you want to talk about in the back end, this would be a good time to do that.
Okay. Next.
Yeah. Okay. You look like you have something to say.
No.
For those who are thinking about becoming members, the website is closed for now for new enrollment. But I do encourage you to join the newsletter. So go to www.breedersacademy.com to subscribe. It's a free newsletter. We call it the Breeders Bulletin. You're going to get a lot of free articles, free tips on breeding, free bonus material, such as ebooks and other stuff. And then one of the main things that if you want to be a member eventually, to look out for is every now and then I'll be sending out some member invites. So if it's something you're thinking about doing, make sure you open them. Every now and then I might send an invitation to become a Breeders' Academy member, and it'll all be done through the newsletter itself. I'm not sure when I'm going to just open up the website for new members. We haven't even talked about it yet, but this, for now, until I do, this is the best way to get in. Join the newsletter, wait for those invites to come around every now and then. And when they do show up, join. That'd be the good time to join.
So we just talked about this. Anne Bree, when will enrollment be open? We'll be back up. Get into that newsletter. Subscribe to the newsletter, and you just might get an invite to join there. And with that said, we're not sure when we're going to reopen the website, but make sure you join the newsletter. Start there.
Yeah. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com to subscribe. So make sure to do that. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to do the members Q&A in the back end. I think we're ready to go, Nancy.
All right. I think we're ready to go. Oh, just so y'all know, I'm doing 2. Okay, I'm on it. All right. Anne Bree says she's on it, or he's on it. I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. He or she's going to sign up for the newsletter. Just so you all know, I will keep an eye on the chat, but I have 2 jobs today. I'm co-hosting with Kenny, so I have to be more talkative on the show. than inside the chat room. So if I'm not very chatty inside the chat room, this is why. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On with the show.
I'll tell you, it's nice having Frank because it's nice making it a discussion, because I can come up with a topic, I can talk about it, I can pass it over to Frank. He talks for a while, then I sit here and think about how I want to say it, what I want to say about it, or he'll say something that'll make me react. And so it's a little harder, because if I feel like I'm all by myself, then I'm just teaching and I'm just rambling. And that's, to me, that's not what the front end's all about. The front end's more of a discussion. It's educational, but it's informative, but it's educational too. And that's how we look at it. And that's how I want to keep it. So I'm hoping Frank will be back soon. So Nancy, I need Nancy to be part of the show, so that we're having somewhat of a conversation. And I can see she's struggling with it already today. So
no, you just don't want to hear Kenny talking all the time. It's just
no, yeah. I don't even want to hear myself talking all the time. Okay. I get tired of my own voice. So.
All right, moving on. Outcrossing can offer several benefits. What are they?
Well, it increases genetic diversity and hybrid vigor, but it comes with a lot of potential dangers too, and a lot of challenges for breeders. And this is something we're going to talk about. I can't wait to get into it. The first one's going to be a little bit different. Nance, I see your notes here. Do we want to do that first?
Well, yeah, after you finish we talk about that today. Okay.
Yeah, but I already said what I said.
All right. So you're talking about that today. Okay. So I wrote a little note in here to Kenny. Do not interrupt my question at this part. Let me talk. So there you go. You have been warned.
I'll do my best.
I'm going to ask you a series of questions here, a very, short series of questions. And most of y'all, at least I know that the Breeders Academy members know the answers to all these questions. I'm sure of it. But in case there's somebody new here tonight that has not been listening to us before, I have a couple questions for Kenny. And I'm going to ask all my questions and then you're going to answer them. Okay. So I'd like to know, why do breeders think outcrossing is a good thing? Okay. All right. So you say genetic diversity and hybrid vigor. That's why they think it's a good thing. I told you not to interrupt. Okay. However, but do they think about the possible genetic diversity that can occur? It may be a good diversity or it could be a bad diversity. So I'll have you talking about that. What do we think they are gaining from outcrossing? And then some traits that they don't have now is maybe one of the reasons why they want to outcross. Like, I don't have that trait. I need to get that trait. So I'm going to outcross and get that trait. But do they not know what else could be coming along with it? Okay, he's getting very anxious.
I'm just trying to follow you. You're giving me a lot.
Now, but first of all, before you even answer those questions that I'm sure you've already forgotten, but you do have it on the outline, what is outcrossing? Give me the definition, a short definition of what that is.
Okay. A lot of people, let's put it this way. Outcrossing, the simplest term, is when you're breeding. Let's say you have a barred Plymouth Rock. I'm using a domestic chicken in this case. So you want to bring in outside blood, but you don't want to bring in a different type of breed. So whenever you bring a different type of breed, that's crossbreeding. You're crossing two different breeds. When I'm taking, let's say, my barred Plymouth Rocks and bringing it to someone else's barred Plymouth Rocks, that's outcrossing. So whenever you're breeding to an animal or bird that has the same breed variety as yours, and the color and everything, then it's just a simple outcross. And that works for domestic chickens. It works for most breeds of dogs, unless you're you're crossing your different breeds, of course. But I always say it probably doesn't work for American games, which is something I breed and something I've been dealing with a long time, is because we as breeders in the American game fowls group are crossing them all the time. We're just adding new blood. We don't know what's in them. We're crossing our strains. We're crossing our color groups. We're bringing in different breeds. We're adding Asil, Peruvian blood, Spanish blood, you name it. Who knows what's in them? So whenever we think and then the closest we can come to what we think is outcrossing would be matching up the names. Well, just from what I just said, we're since most breeders are adding new blood all the time, they don't really know what's in them. The names don't work either. So we can't do that either. So I don't think outcrossing really works for American games, but I do think it works for domestic chickens for the most part, because let's say we're back to the barred Plymouth Rock, is if someone added some outside blood into a barred Plymouth Rock family, you would see it. It'd be hard not to. I mean, they just wouldn't hide it that well. It would come through. So you would know. But American games, you wouldn't know. You know, you have no idea what's in them.
Yeah. How would you see it? Give me an example. What do you mean?
What, like in American games or barred Plymouth Rocks?
In a Plymouth Rock.
Well,
how would you see it?
The pattern, the barring pattern, the color would be wrong. The other color would shine through. You know, try breeding like a buff color into a barred Plymouth Rock and see what you get there. Okay, adding blue would change them too. So you would see it. Most domestic birds, if you cross them to another breed or variety, you would see it. We do see it. Most people don't know what to look for, but we do see it with American games, because if we add acyl, if you understand what acyls are all about and how their form and function, you would, if I were to add acyl into my Maximus line out there, you would see that acyl influence. It would just come through. You know, same thing with the Peruvian blood. But most people don't know what to look for, so they don't see it. They don't know that what the real difference is between American game and acyl or American game acyl cross. They don't see the difference. So it gets by them, and then they just keep adding blood from there. But it is noticeable for someone who knows what they're looking for. But for a lot of people just getting into breeding and raising American games, Old English games, you know, they a lot of times they don't see it because they don't know what to look for. Does that explain?
Well, I'm a little bit confused, because did you not say that for domestic fowl, say a barred rock to another barred rock that's out of your family works? Or say
I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying that's a proper outcross.
Okay.
So if
there's still issues with that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, okay. You're making me go way too into outcrossing more than I want to right now, because we're going to be covering that in the next
okay, then we
episode.
We'll wait till next week. Okay, yeah. Moving on.
Okay. So
so you answered one of my questions, but you didn't answer the other ones. Why do breeders think outcrossing is a good thing? Or did you?
Well, they see the genetic diversity, they see the hybrid vigor, but they don't realize those things aren't exactly a good thing. Okay. But see, that's the whole next show, Nancy, is why is it a good thing? I can go here. I can be here all day talking about that.
Are you okay? Are you there? Okay. You got quiet on me. As I was
No, I know. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing. I'm talking to you, but you're not talking back.
No, Joseph, this is awesome. Okay, games. When selection means not all hatch are actual hatch. Not all kelso are actually kelso.
That's true.
There are new strains to be named. Is what causes the name game problem. Crossing make it even messier.
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. Yeah.
I love the things that he says. He's always dead on. All right. So let's
maybe talk to Joseph. Maybe he can come on and cover for Frank when Frank can't make it. What do you think, Joseph?
Yeah. Would you like that?
I'll have to talk to him about that, because I do like, he's good. You know, how do I say this? He's very supportive of what we do. He's very supportive of the Breeders Academy, and I like what he says. So maybe I need to talk to him.
Okay. Let me ask you this before we move on. So, it's not showing. There we go. Okay. So hybrid vigor boost racing performance in pigeons. So that's what Ambry is talking about.
Yeah.
And,
but let me say this. Okay. Hybrid vigor does make the offspring better than their parents. That's what it's supposed to do. But hybrid vigor is neither inheritable nor can you pass it to the next generation. So the hybrid animal that's sitting in front of you is the product. So you can't. Hybrid animals are great performance animals, but they're not great breeding animals. Now, can we use birds that are either outcross or a product of hybrid vigor in the beginning of a breeding program? Absolutely. That's a lot of times that's what we have to do because that's all that's available. Our crosses, our mixed birds, our mongrels. Sometimes we just got to get the best birds we can that represent their breeding variety the best that they can. And then from there, we create the family from there, from that point on. So we try to find a male that properly matches a female and vice versa, and then we move forward. When you have birds with a lot of faults, a lot of defects, health issues, the two birds are not only not related, which is fine, but maybe they don't match each other, then you got a project on your hands. It's gonna, not that it can't happen, but it will take some time. And so you have to understand that if you start properly with the best birds possible, then getting to the foundation stage of the program is a lot faster and a lot easier. You start with birds with a lot of issues, it's going to, not that you can't get there, it's going to take you longer. And you got to be willing to produce a lot of birds, a lot of animals, and you got to be able to cull hard too. And then follow the program the best you can. And we can help you with that. So understand that hybrid vigor is an amazing function. How do I want to say this? Amazing effect, I guess you could say. But it's not the fix-all like everybody thinks. Like I hear so many times people go, oh, I want to maintain the hybrid vigor in my family, so I got to outcross to keep that hybrid vigor going. Well, you don't maintain the hybrid vigor. You don't keep it going. It's not passed from the next to the next generation. So everybody misunderstands the effects of hybrid vigor and its benefits. But understand that whenever you're crossing two birds together, they're unrelated, and you get that hybrid offspring, that is essentially the product.
Well, let me ask you this. Gallus is asking, and this is pertaining to pigeons, winning line. The cockbird crosses with the winning line of the hen. Is there a greater chance on winning? He's talking about racing pigeons here.
It's a crapshoot. You just don't know, because what happens when you cross two birds, whether they're both winning lines or not, is good genetics or good genetics, and you get good hybrid vigor from that. Okay. But, oh shoot, what was I going to say? But whenever you cross two birds together, unrelated, and we talk about this all the time, it's a broken record, my members probably get tired of hearing it, is you're basically shuffling the genes and recombinating them. And if you look at meiosis, we say this a lot, you look at meiosis and the way meiosis works with the crossover event, you put those two birds together, the chromosomes come together, they split off, they leave parts of each other on each other. When they go, what they do is they separate into four unique gametes. So that means the offspring are different. So does that mean two winning birds can produce a whole bunch of winning birds? It's a crapshoot. You never know. They may produce really good birds and they may not. It could be all over the place. So those pigeons could have, let's say, 3 or 4 offspring in a year. Maybe only one of them out of all of them will be worth a damn. You can't guarantee it because you just don't know what it's going to produce. I think of it differently. I think it's better to create a pure family that you've selectively bred and you've improved all its qualities, the way it performs, the conformation and the type, the health of the bird, like I said, the way it performs, the color, whatever. You're selectively breeding it, improving along the way. Okay, and those are actually very competitive birds. Okay, there's another way you could do it too, is to create 2 separate families that you've selectively bred and improved. And the more inbred they are, the more proponent they are. If you're selecting females, and this is with everything, you select females with good mitochondrial DNA, and you can tell that she does have good mitochondrial DNA because she's healthy and all the offspring she produces are healthy. Okay. They grow and develop really good. You don't see any weaknesses. Okay. They almost jump out of the shell. That's a good sign of mitochondrial DNA. So if and you only get that and preponency by putting together or producing really pure inbred birds. Everybody thinks they did their cross, they got their hybrids. They think that's that's part of prepotency. No, it's actually the reverse. Good prepotency only comes from inbred pure families. Okay.
So Gallus is saying, is it different between, is it the same? What you've just said, does that go towards game fowl
It goes
as
it
well?
goes with
It goes through
everything.
everything.
Yep,
Yeah.
everything. All breeds of animals and birds. Everything. Livestock, poultry, chickens, dogs, you name it. This all works for that. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're fine with just bringing in new animals and taking your chance, and it can be a hit and miss on the quality of the animals that you're producing, the quality of the birds you're producing, and you're okay with that, fine. But if you want to up your ante of producing more, producing good animals more often, more regularly, more consistently, more better uniformity, then the purer they are, the better they are. They really are. It's just that not too many people are willing or patient enough to do that. Okay, because it does take time. So I always tell people, okay, you're used to doing it that way, where you're bringing in outside blood all the time. You're used to doing your crosses and your outcrosses and your mongrelization. Okay, so fine, do that. Do that over there, and then start your breeding program with your best birds on this side. And then as you're working on your making your family more pure, more uniform, more consistent, and you're bettering the line using something like the Founders Program, as they get better, they'll eventually outshine the mongrelization you created over here. Okay, by adding new blood all the time. Let's put it this way: when you add two pure families together, that's crossbreeding, that's hybridization. When you start doing multiple crosses, you start doing 3-way, 4-way, whatever cross. You keep adding new blood. Now we're talking about mongrelization. Not bad. I mean, you can create a family from either one of them, but to just continue to do that, it's not producing the animals you think it's producing. And that's why outcrossing is so controversial, because everybody's so afraid of inbreeding and line breeding. And I think their interpretation of those two things are different or wrong anyways. But whenever they're doing that, they get scared. They're worried about the COI, the coefficient of inbreeding. And it would take a lot of inbreeding to get to the point of inbreeding depression. And then what they're mixing up too is that inbreeding depression isn't what they think it is. Inbreeding depression is simply lack of vigor. That's all it is. Okay. So, but some of the other effects of inbreeding would be that you would see defects and other things come out that wasn't recreated or anything. It was already in the bloodline. And for some animals, that's a big deal. And if you're worried about inbreeding and you're worried about those kind of things showing up, then I say test them. Make sure that that's not in them. And then test the animals that you're going to be breeding to, so you know what's in them. Because if one has one defect and the other one has a different defect, you could match them up pretty good. And chances are those aren't going to show up. Okay. Or in time they may. So you got to know the odds of those things showing up, and you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? But anytime you cross, you recombinate the genes, you change them. They're not a pure family. They're not a foundation at all. You're just mongrelizing them as you go. Okay. So the idea is to create pure families. And for some animals you can test, chickens you can't, but you can produce a lot of birds with chickens. And if anything pops up, the little here and there that does pop up, you just get rid of them, breed to the healthy ones, the ones that are showing to have no defects, have no deformities, whatever, and they represent their breed really well. You just keep moving forward from there, and eventually the hidden the recessives that are there will be hidden eventually. And I understand that when it comes to birds like chickens, culling is easier because we can eat our culls, and I understand that's an issue for dogs. But I will say this: that if you're not willing to do the culling, and you're not willing to take the chances and then push your strain to the level, to the limit, then you shouldn't be a breeder, because culling is a big part of breeding. But for dogs, there's some things you can do to test them to see if that's an issue. Then you know not to match certain dogs together. And if you do, there are the odds of something happening. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means it could happen. But outcrossing is not the answer. Outcrossing, they look at outcrossing as a fix-all. So I inbreed them for a while, which isn't inbreeding the way they talk about a lot of times. And I thought it was just a dog thing, and some of it I thought was just a chicken thing. But I'm realizing they're doing the same thing. They think inbreeding is, well, in some ways it is. Inbreeding is when you're breeding animals that are within a closed family. Okay, it could be anything. It could be brother and sister. It could be father, daughter, mother, son. It could be to the grandparents. It could be to aunt, to uncle, to cousins. I get it. That's all can be lumped into inbreeding as far as the terminology is concerned. But true inbreeding, in the way that you would use it to your benefit or to your detriment if you don't know what you're doing, would be actual inbreeding brother and sister. Okay. But those cousin to cousin, aunt to nephew, uncle to niece type things, that's not inbreeding, and that's not even line breeding like a lot of people think. It's what we call in and inbreeding. And it doesn't accomplish what you think, because although it keeps the COI down, the coefficient inbreeding, somewhat down, you're still from the other side of that line, you're bringing an outside blood, whether you believe it or not. And you're still introducing detrimental and deleterious genes into the family, and you're not locking in or fixating any genes in a way that's moving that family forward. So I think in an inbreeding is fine for a maintenance program with it from a family that's not having any outside blood introduced to it. It works as a maintenance program, but it doesn't advance the family. So whenever you're looking at line breeding, a true line breeding program, and a lot of people, and I'll tell what the line breeding program is, but I still think a lot of people mess it up because they don't know what they're supposed to do before the line breeding program, which is what we call a cleanup process. They don't do the actual line breeding program properly, which has a lot of moving parts, I want to say, that we use in the founders program. And they don't know what to do at the end, because a lot of times they just get to what we call the dead end zone. They're afraid of bringing them too close, and then they outcross and then ruin everything they did, destroyed all the progress they made. And they're essentially, not essentially, they are starting over. But line breeding to some is, like I said, aunt to nephew, uncle to niece, cousin to cousin, that kind of thing, where line breeding is actually breeding a common ancestor to its offspring generation after generation, because it's a cloning process. So if we look at, let's break them down a little bit. Inbreeding is a fixation tool, brother to sister. Anything else is inbreeding, but it's not what you use as a breeder, okay? Line breeding is a cloning tool, but you have to do it right, because if you're using animals or birds in your line breeding program to clone, but you didn't do the cleanup process, then you can go many generations, still have all that genetic diversity you had in the beginning, all that variation. So you get to the end of the line breeding program, you've used that male or female as far as you can go, and you still have all the problems you started with because you didn't do the cleanup process. And then they get to the end, they feel like they're still inbred, even though that variation is there. Then they outcross and ruin everything. Okay. And then we talked about outcrossing, which is breeding to another family, another strain that's the same breed and variety. And then crossbreeding is breeding two animals or two birds from a completely different breed. So once you understand the different breeding methods and understand their functions and their purpose, then you have a better understanding how to use them and how to use them to your benefit. But none of them work unless you have a proper breeding program. A proper breeding program consists of multiple methods within that program used at the right time for the right length of time to achieve a specific result. And until you understand that, then you don't have a breeding program. That makes sense, Nancy?
Sure. No, I had this up here for a second. Dennis says, "You're saying too much, boss." So
you know what? Because you're a member, you know how I skirted it, but think about it. Because you're a member, you know that I missed all the important parts.
Okay. And then for you people that are not members, go back and listen to this episode a lot, because he just gave you a whole bundle of information.
I did, but it's the members who know that. And I'm sorry, I just didn't give enough out to show anybody what that means.
No, you didn't, but you did give a lot of good information out. And you went on for a while. And because of that, I mean, y'all should go back and listen to it over and over, because there are some nuggets in there that you're gonna miss tonight, and you're gonna want to go back and revisit this episode, especially now. When you mentioned about culling, and all the good breeders, they have to be okay with culling.
Yep.
I get that. There are some dog breeders that they, if they're breeding Frenchies, I think, what do they have, only 2 or 3 in a litter at a time? So which some of those could have issues in them. Some of the pups could have issues, some defects.
Yep.
I mean, they have options where they can give the pups away as a house dog, meaning it's for somebody to have the house dog, not for somebody who's going to use that dog for show or for breeding purposes. But they have other ways of so-called culling the puppy, other than actual culling the puppy. But I would have to say, and I'll ask you if you agree with this, for those that have very small litters, or even those that have 10 litters in one breeding, they're going to have a number of brood stock out there to accomplish what we can accomplish with chickens, because we can have 2 or 3 or 4 clutches in a season, or we can have, I don't know how many brood fowl that we can have to get. So what I'm trying to say is we can get further along with the chickens than they can get along with the dogs, unless they have a large family of dogs. Make sense?
I don't know where to go with all that. You went too long. Oh man, I had an answer for you a while back, but at the 3-minute mark, I lost it. Okay, let me say this. You bring up some good points. When it comes to breeding, the numbers are important with all breeds, all types of animals, all types of birds. Okay, the numbers are important. Without the numbers, you don't really have a breeding program. So some animals are easier than others. Some produce, a lot of offspring. Some only produce a couple. That's an issue. It's something you're going to have to figure out how to deal with, because it's always going to be an issue. But the numbers are important. And if you're not willing to produce the numbers, or what I used to say is to be willing to not only produce the numbers, but produce some culls to find the standouts, you're never going to get there. So if you got a difficult family, like some let's say dogs, some dogs, they don't breed and produce or reproduce naturally. They have to have like C-sections and stuff like that. Well, you picked a very difficult dog to breed and produce. Okay, that's something you're going to have to deal with. I'm just saying that when you're outcrossing, you're not a breeder. When you're outcrossing and adding new blood all the time, you're not creating a strain. You don't have a foundation line. Okay, that's not a family. Anytime you outcross, it ceases to be a family. It ceases to be a foundation. You're starting over every time you do that. If you look at the Founders Program, and I'll say it, that the only place the outcrossing comes into play is in the very beginning with your Adam and Eve, the unrelated parents. But there's a method to use so that you can get past that and make a family out of them. But if I get to the foundation line and I freak out because someone told me, oh, you're getting them too close, I go, well, I don't see evidence. Oh, trust me, you're going to get them too close. Before you know, all kinds of problems are going to happen. Oh, I freak out. I go out and I add new blood to it because I want to refresh. You didn't refresh anything. You recombinate it. You shuffled the genes, recombinate them. Now you're starting completely over. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, they shuffled them and they recombinated them, and now they're starting over, but the puppies look golden, or the chickens look golden.
Yeah,
it's an illusion, right?
What the phenotype is not always the best representative of the genotype. Just because the puppies look good or the chickens look good doesn't mean that they're going to change. They're not going to change later on, and that change, because you didn't do it properly, is going to show up later. That's going to force you to freak out. Not force you, but it's going to make you freak out thinking you have to outcross, and then you start over. When there's a process that you can use to keep moving forward, even though you're getting variation. There's ways to deal with that variation to clean it up as you go. But a lot of people freak out. They see issues. They do an inbreeding. They see issues right away. And they like, oh, that's the worst thing I could ever do. I just went in the wrong direction, and they abandoned the whole project. What they weren't realizing that each method is showing you exactly what you need to see. And knowing how to recognize and understand what you're seeing and recognizing what the next move is what's important. And that's what the Founders Program does. My biggest issue right now, I mean, there's a lot there. I'm not gonna say there are a lot of programs. I've seen a lot of programs and very few of them do I agree with at all. But let's say there are some programs out there, and I'm sure some people think they are using a program. Great. Okay, just assume that it's a workable, functional program that unless you're willing to keep them pure as you go and you're resist the temptation to add outside blood, you don't have a family, you don't have a foundation, and every time you do it, you start it over. So
I'm looking at the outline and you skipped over a whole bunch of my questions, mister.
okay, ask them.
Dare you? Well, I don't know if it pertains to what we're talking about now. Well, let me ask you this. Is outcrossing considered a method? Because you say methods a lot. So I'm just wondering if it's a method.
We look at it, it is a method. Outcrossing is a breeding method. But there's some methods we think of as tools. To us, inbreeding, it's a method, but it's also a tool. It's used for specific reasons. Not everybody should inbreed. Not all animals should be inbred. Okay, unless you understand how to use that tool. I usually tell people, you don't know what you're doing when it comes to inbreeding, then don't do it. Okay, because you can do it wrong. You can mess up pretty quick. Outcrossing to me is a tool. It is a method as far as the terminology goes, but it's a tool because you use it for a specific reason. I just think most people are using outcrossing wrong. There's a time to outcross, or the time to use animals or birds that were outcrossed, but it's not the fix all everybody thinks it is. It's not what you want to use to advance your family. Okay.
So we have about 10 minutes left. Would you like to go into some questions?
Sure.
All right, let's queue up the questions here. I'm not sure if I understand what Rolando is asking here. I need some information and suggestions on weather shows 120 next weekend.
Oh, the weather becomes, oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh, meaning it's going to be hot?
Yeah,
oh,
it's going to be hot. Make sure they have shade. Make sure they have fresh water. Make sure the water is in the shade and where they can easily get it. They don't have to hunt for it. Nancy used to take plastic bottles and freeze them, put them in the freezer and freeze them, and she would put those in the water buckets in the middle of the day.
But they probably won't. They'll probably be in small square cages, so they'll probably only have a small water cup. So I would say,
that's scary, actually, to have birds in a pen with only a small water cup. And if they run low, dump it, whatever, that could be a bad thing. I'd be careful of that. Now, some places where it's hot but not humid, I mean, you could kind of spray them down a little bit. I'd be careful because it might create humidity. So you got to be careful of that. In places that is humid, I wouldn't spray them down because it's going to make them more humid. So be careful if you do spray down.
I don't think they're going to have a way to spray them down if they're at a chicken show.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh,
the one thing that
where'd you see that? I don't think it's a show.
Oh, it's not a show?
No.
Weather shows. Okay, I get it.
If I was going to a show that was that kind of heat, I wouldn't go to that show.
Okay, I'm understanding it now. So you're talking at home, it's going to be 120 degrees. If they've got a good breeze going through there, that's going to help them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what else we used to do too? Because we had some like 115 degree days out here. Where they sunbathe, they make like a little divot in the ground. We would put a little bit of water in that and let the water soak down. And so they would go into that little divot and do some dusting. I guess
that's a good idea. Yeah.
I would do that dusting too. And they were getting the cool dirt up into their skin.
Yep.
That's good. Another thing that we used to do.
So when I water in the morning, like she said, those little crevices that they used to, those holes that they dug when they were dusting themselves. Yeah. Just fill those up with water. They love that. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the frozen water bottles, I had a big, huge freezer that was doing absolutely nothing, had hardly anything in it. And so I got a bunch of used water bottles, filled it up with just tap water and froze them all up. And believe me, those water bottles were unfrozen by mid-afternoon, but it helped a lot in them.
Now, I remember one time when I was a kid, I don't think I've done that here. We had such extreme heat that we grabbed like a big old bucket. I think it might even been a trash can, filled it up with water and a bunch of ice. And this, if you have a lot of birds, this is not that easy to do, but we had people grabbing birds, and then one person was just like putting them in the water, holding them under for a while, and then putting them back in the pen, trying to get their body temperature down. So getting them, submerge them, a little bit of their body underwater, and see if you can cool them down. But if you have a lot of birds, that is tough. So maybe do that with your best birds at least, and then do the other things we talked about to the other ones. Yeah. He's asking about, electrolytes. Be careful with electrolytes. There's a lot of things in electrolytes, especially the ones in the store, that are not all that great for them. So I wouldn't go hog wild with electrolytes, but I think now and then it helps. I wouldn't do it too much for too long, for sure.
How about some like cold watermelon in the afternoon for, to get the insides of them a little bit cooler, cool off the insides?
Feeding them anything that has moisture in it would probably be good, I would think.
Okay. So maybe some chopped up cold watermelon, not
if
watermelon
they'll eat
that's
it.
Oh, they
sometimes
love
they don't
watermelon.
eat. But sometimes they don't eat when it's hot.
Oh, okay, that's true too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Anything
true.
else?
They don't want anything to be full. Conan is asking, he's wondering, what page in the Academy do you have pictures of your birds?
It's kind of scattered throughout the website. I do know there's some in the standard, different colors, like in the black-breasted black red standard. There's some there. The black reds are there. The black-breasted light reds, I have some there. The confirmation page has some of them there. They're kind of scattered throughout the website. I just don't have a page where I put my birds. If you go on my Facebook page, my group pages, especially the Kenny Troiano Master Breeder group page, I have all those pictures on there are mine. Those are all mine. But just know I don't sell birds. If you're a member and you're able to pick them up, I can put you on a list. And when I have some available, I call you up. And if you're willing to come and get them, then I give them for free. But I don't sell birds.
Or eggs?
Not anymore. Nah.
No. So if you bought some eggs from somebody that said they were Kenny Troiano and you're waiting for them to ship to you, then you just got scammed, because Kenny does not sell.
I don't sell any birds. I don't sell anything.
Does not ship anything. All right. So if Robbie's asking, what if you got one bird from a breeder who produces very consistent fowl, but the type isn't quite your cup of tea?
Well, if the type is wrong, then it doesn't represent its breed. So then it's wrong. Can I move forward with it and make a family out of it? It depends on how far the type is off. Okay. If it still somewhat represents its breed and it just needs a little work, confirmation of type is a polygenic trait. I can improve it by selecting the highest intensity, the best birds, not all of them, just a few to the best, and little by little I can get there. So the question is, why doesn't it represent its breed, and how far off is it?
Okay. So Robbie, there's the question for you. Did you hear that one? We expect an answer from you in just a second. So we have a suggestion from Gang Chao. I hope I said that right. Don't dunk them in cold water after they're overheated, just before they go into shock. I mean,
not cold water, but cool water. Yeah. That's what we did. I think we just filled the trash can up with water. I think we threw a little bit of ice in there, just something that was in the refrigerator, and it worked. I mean, that ice melted right away, which is cool. I wouldn't throw him in icy water. So he might be right there.
Yeah. Give him an ice bath.
Yeah, he might be right. I don't know. I never did that. So
no. He's not talking about don't give him an ice bath. You'll put him into shock. So just cool water.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just remember too that your water needs to be at least 10 degrees cooler than what it is outside. So if it's 110 outside, make sure your water is under 100 degrees. You'd want it under that even more, but you don't want it to be 40 degree
We
Ice
had,
water.
I remember one time we had temperatures for a few days, actually. It was like 117, 118, somewhere around there. And I happened to have the air conditioner on here, so I was working. So, and I could hear Nancy out there watering trees or something,
Yeah,
doing
it was.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And I'm like, gosh, she okay? So I went out there, and when I walked out from the air conditioned room into the into that heat,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm looking around, going, why aren't my chickens just dropping dead? But they survived it fine. I didn't lose not one bird.
It's crazy because I know this from working outside for 36 years, and I'm in a mail truck that the inside of the mail truck is like 120 degrees when it's 100 degrees outside. So, I mean, it gets pretty hot. But, and this is with the chickens too, you're starting from the morning hours where the weather increases little by little. So your body acclimates little by little. But, you're right. I'm going to screw up your name, Chiang. You're right. If you go, like Kenny said, from something, an air conditioned room, it's nice and cool and your body temperature is nice and cool. And then you go out and it's like, whoa, you're getting hit with all this heat. It's a shock to your body. So I'm thinking that in a lot of ways, if you got a nice, good breeze that the air can move through their wings, if they have that, and even though it's 120 degrees, most likely they're going to do well. And the ones that don't are your weak links anyway. So, wouldn't you say?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. One more question. Let's get in the back.
We are out of questions. So
Okay.
I have one question for you, Kenny. What are we, I wanted you to remind everybody what we will be discussing next week.
What did we do today? I think I covered it pretty good. Every method having a particular function and purpose. The part 2 would be, why do breeders think outcrossing is a good thing? So we'll kind of talk about the reasons to outcross. Probably talk about the downsides a little bit too, but kind of talk about the pros of outcrossing, why people like it, what are the benefits, how it works for them. And then the week after that, it'll be the dangers of outcrossing.
Is Rolando one of our members?
Yeah.
Okay. Rolando, ask that question again when we get into the backside. Okay.
Okay. So is that it?
That's it.
Okay. So I want to thank you guys for showing up, making your comments and your questions. A lot of times it's you guys that make the show possible or make it work. I don't know. That's what I was going to say. But yeah, I appreciate it. So we'll see you guys next week, and we'll see our members in the back end. Thanks a lot. And
don't hang up on me yet. Also, guys, if you like this show, make sure that you give us a nice little thumbs up, share often, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell to get notified every time that we're on. You will know about it. Have a good night, everybody.
Wait a minute. Let me say that one more time. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people are showing up late. Okay, so if you're thinking about becoming a Breeders' Academy member, the registration page is closed for new enrollment. This doesn't affect the members that are already in there at all. Okay, but if you're thinking about becoming a member still, because we don't know when we're going to open it up, go to www.breedersacademy.com, subscribe to our newsletter, which we call the Breeders Bulletin. Okay, you're going to get a lot of benefits, a lot of ebooks, a lot of freebies, but every now and then, out of the blue, I may send a membership invite. And if you want to be a member, just take advantage of that invite and then sign up. That'd be the best way to become a member at this point, until we decide to open it, which we're really not sure when that's going to happen. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Let me get this off of here. There we go.
Like I said, my members, meet me in the back end, and we're going to do a members live Q&A. Should be fun. See you there.
Okay. Bye.
You want to get that off the screen?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
There we go. Bye.